Good evening. Today is December 3rd, 2020. And I want to thank you for joining me tonight on a Council in Your Neighborhood segment on guess what? Noise. Why noise? I'll tell you, this topic was one that I was enlisted to host a meeting on because there's a serious concern affecting the safety and peace of our neighbors, not just our neighbors in my own neighborhood, and I'm sure yours too. I am so happy to have City Councilman and Vice Chairman and our Chair elect, Frank Covet, here with me tonight as we delve into this topic and share with the guests joining me what kinds of noise complaints are being expressed by the citizens. Councilman, thanks for being here. You've been on the council for 5 years now and will lead the city council beginning in January in a new leadership role. I thank you for offering your service in this expanded role on the council. I know that you are double booked and you will have to get another engagement before I appreciate you agreeing to be here with us for as long as you have time for us. So today, I just want to say to everyone, just thank you for being here. This is really important to our community. It's important to me, and it's important that we address this issue. So let me tell you just a little bit about myself. I've served on the Memphis City Council now for 5 years. I chaired the council this year, and this has been a monumental year in that we've had COVID-19. And I'm currently quarantined. So please, as you go out, wear your mask, wash your hands, and stay socially distanced. And remember, though, as we go through the holidays, we're going to stay with our families within our homes, and we're not going to do a whole lot of mingling this year. If we do this really well, this spring, we'll be back together again. So let me just turn over now to our chair elect, Covet, so that he can introduce himself. And then we're going to get on with introducing our other guest on tonight. And if you have any questions or any statements that you'd like to read, right up under the viewing box, you should see a little box that says comments. You can put those comments in, and I can click on them and read your questions, your concerns, so that our guests can address those issues on tonight. I hope that you will know that this is going to be a very interactive session. Mr. Covet.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. First things first, welcome to all of the folks to council in your neighborhood, and a huge debt of gratitude and thanks to our outgoing chair lady, Patrice Robinson. It is extremely hard to chair a legislative body, especially in the city of Memphis. You have done a phenomenal job.
Thank you.
COVID on top of all of that, one would argue that it would crush lesser people, but you have risen and shown truly your character and your leadership. If I could be half of that, I will consider my year a success. It is an honor to serve you. It's an honor to serve the citizens of Memphis. I represent District 2 on the Memphis City Council for the last 5 years. I've been vice chairman actually twice and helped Patrice make sure that the meetings run efficiently. I'm also the outgoing chairman for the last 5 years of our planning and zoning committee, meaning I oversee the committee's response and help guide all of the conversations regarding planning and zoning cases. At this point, though, I'm going to pitch it back to the chair lady to explain to all of our listeners and watchers how the chat box works so that we can get to all of your questions. Madam Chairman, that you have the ball.
Thank you. And I'm eager to delve into the discussion now. But I see that our citizens have already picked up on that. comments are at the bottom of your screen. Just type them in and I'll get them. I see 1, 2, 3, 4 questions already in comment, and then staff have questions. So the team that's working with us tonight, our speakers, can see that in the private chat. And then if you click over at comments, the people who are with us on tonight, our guests, you can see the comments as well as the private chat, and that is to the right of your screen. So joining us is Deputy Director of the Memphis Police Department, Mike Rowell. Deputy Director, thank you so much for being here. Will you give those an opportunity here just a little bit about those people who are viewing today, a little bit about your background and who you are? And I'm sure everybody in Memphis know you, but just for the sake of those who may not, tell them who you are.
Well, thank you, Chairwoman Robinson, and I just appreciate the opportunity to be here in front of the citizens of Memphis and this great group. And I've been a police officer here in the city for 37 years. The exit sign, believe it or not, is blinking. I'll be retiring in less than a year, so I'll be kind of migrating my way out of this great city in my career. But like I told somebody the other day, even this morning and every morning when I wake up, I enjoy coming to work. And I have friends in other services outside of government and law enforcement that don't care a whole lot about their job, but they do it every day so they can pay bills and so forth. Well, I have a double pleasure because I enjoy my work, and it just has been a great opportunity for me over these past 37 years to grow, to be a better citizen, to learn from the citizens that I work with and fellowship with, and I've seen every facet of law enforcement from uniform patrol. I was appointed to deputy director in 2016, and very shortly after my appointment, we were on top of the biggest protests in recent history, and it just ended peacefully. And it ended wonderfully. And again, that's that we serve, that they really want an opportunity to talk and discuss and
Okay, we're
hopefully get better.
losing you.
We got 3 still in the school. Uh-oh. Can you hear me?
You're we can hear you now. We can hear you now.
Are you better? Is this better? Okay. So
Yes.
just I was saying that I'm a family man, and I've got a great wife and 3 children. Live in the city. I've always lived in the city. My children were educated in city schools, and they're doing great today. And it's just been a great partnership for me as a father and a husband and a police officer, just to intermingle with the great citizens that we surround ourselves with to make a better city called Memphis. We know that tonight we're talking about noise, and that concerns us as well as it does you, because it has affected our quality of life, both personally and professionally. And we want to hear your questions and hopefully help you understand what we're doing and what efforts we're making to combat this terrible thing at wee hours of the morning, when we hear things that wake us up in a cold sleep, and we don't know if the earth is ending or somebody is racing out in front of our street. So bear with us as we work through some efforts, and but we'll work together to make it a better place. But thank you so much again, Councilman Colvett and Chair Robinson, for letting me be a part of this discussion tonight.
You're quite welcome, Frank.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. It's next we're going to hear from Deputy Chief Paul Wright. Paul, are you on the call? There you are. Yes, sir. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right, I'm Deputy Chief Paul Wright. I've been with the Memphis Police Department for about 31 years now. It'd be actually 32 in January. Started off as a PST, did 3 years, and I would tell anybody that's looking at it, if you got a kid that wants a good job, put them into our PST program, the Police Service Technician Program. It's a good program to start out in, and it takes you into a good career as a police officer. So it's something to think about for the young people out there. But going back to myself, I was made Deputy Chief over District 2 Uniform Patrol back July 2019. Once I was promoted, I got 5 precincts that I oversee. That's the Austin Peace Station, the Crump Station, Tillman Station, North Main Station, and the Appling Farm Station. And those are the 5 stations that I oversee. There are colonels that's over those stations that I oversee to make sure things are done in a proper manner. I'm just one half of the team that oversees the Uniform Patrol. We have 9 precincts throughout the city, and the other 4 precincts are overseen by Deputy Chief Sam Hines. He has 4 precincts under him, but we all are seeing the same problem overall. I'm a citizen here in the city. I live here in Memphis. I grew up in Memphis, went to White Station. I was able to graduate from White Station. Got my degree from Bethel, and I've always enjoyed this job. I'll tell anybody that if you really want a good career, become a police officer. It's an honest career, and regardless of what you see and hear, it's a good place to raise your family here in Memphis. I'm dedicated to making the city safe, and I know what we're going through because I hear those cars out there rumbling every day, and I get on the officers about doing what they need to do to help us prevent that noise. And there are laws out there that we can enforce right now that can make a difference, and we're here to help you out. And I'm here to listen to the complaints today or any concerns today, and try to educate some of our listeners today on what they need to do to get some service from our people.
Okay. Right.
All right. Thank you, Deputy Chief. Now, Jennifer Oswald, are you on the call?
I am. Hello.
There you are.
Jennifer Oswald, president of. So go ahead.
No, I was going to introduce you to the Downtown Memphis Commission president. Thank you so much for tell us a little bit about yourself and maybe a little bit about where you're going.
Okay. Well, thank you for including me in this discussion. It is very important to our downtown stakeholders. I too grew up in Memphis, went to Kirby High School, and have been a proud Memphian, and so excited to see where we've come in the last 10 plus years. Really excited for Memphis's future. I am headed out for hopefully just a little while to Knoxville to work for former Governor Haslam in his family office. But Memphis will always be true to my heart, and I will continue to watch it grow, and I'm excited by that.
I'm surprised. Oh, when do you make that announcement?
Well, you froze her up, Madam Chairman.
What happened to her?
See, we froze her. She can't leave Memphis now.
So you're back. We couldn't hear you.
Well,
and you shocked us.
Oh, well, it is bittersweet for sure. But more about the Downtown Memphis Commission. We do take care of visitors, residents, employees, business owners, and really try to create vibrancy in downtown and listen to concerns. And so we have an interesting perspective on this issue. We also have a Blue Suede Brigade team that is out in the field meeting with people walking around downtown, helping them with directions, but also safety concerns. So we definitely hear a lot about this topic. But thanks for including me.
Okay, thank you. So we have another gentleman that's going to join us, and I know that everybody in Memphis knows him, and that's Mr. Steve Schuler. He's a special assistant to Mayor Strickland, and it's probably familiar to not just a lot of you, but to every organization in the city as well as the county. He is closely on the ground with our citizens, and he works to address their needs and concerns in their neighborhoods and any issues that they may have. Mr. Schuler, you want to just share a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, it's so good to be with you all tonight. I'm coming up on about 3 years working with Mayor Strickland. This is not my first rodeo dealing with complaints, though. I spent about 15 years, almost 16 years with Mayor Luttrell when he was the county mayor. And then when he was sheriff, I was public affairs officer over there. Before working with him, I was at Methodist Health Systems for 10 years, dealing with patient problems and complaints, not only brought in at the hospital level, but with others that had issues with the whole healthcare system. I worked with Cato Johnson down there for that amount of time for about 10 years. And then long before that, I was over with Mayor Hackett and had a very similar role with him for 7 years, from 1985 to 92. And then before that, I was listening to even more complaints at Channel 5. I was a reporter at Action News 5 for 5 years and headed up the What's Bugging You report over there, which led to my first job here at the city. So I've been doing this for quite a while. And my day-to-day job here at the city is to simply listen to problems and complaints that people bring directly to the mayor's office. Some of those folks have gone to the 311 system and have not been able to get those things pushed through. And so I'm the guy that kind of handles the log jam from there. And certainly back in the summer and early spring when this issue came up, we jumped on this issue very, very quickly. And we had some of the folks from the downtown neighborhood area, the residents, we got on the call immediately with Mayor Strickland, and he asked me to lead a group of folks with that team of people to a weekly meeting that we would stay in touch with them. And that's what we've been doing over the last few months, talking to the downtown residents every month about their problems. And then that meeting actually morphed into more neighborhood leaders throughout the city. That expanded out to the Berkeley area and even out to further sections of our city. And so we have about 35 to 40 people on that call every week. We've moved that to about every 2 weeks, but now that this meeting has generated even more attention, we may be going back to that weekly meeting. But whatever the needs are, you have a straight line into the mayor's office with us, and we're just glad to be part of the discussion tonight.
Thank you. And you took care of what I was supposed to say next. But
Nope.
let me say to each one of you, thank you for being here. And we're going to jump into the questions because this noise issue is a serious issue in Memphis. And as I listen to the constituents as they have called me and talked about it, we had other issues at the council, but this was beginning to bubble to the top because I began to experience the same thing that the people from downtown were calling me. Then I started having people from Hickory Hill, then Cordova. And I said, you know something, we need to talk about this and we need to know what we can do. I don't know who on the panel want to address this, but I want to know, what can we do, the police department, to help us with this issue with noise? And then all of this speeding in the city. It's like people have been at home and they've been stuck in the houses because of COVID-19. And when they get outside, they just lose their minds. I don't know what's going on, but I need your help. And I need you to share with the citizens what you can do. And then we're going to have some more discussions and other questions. And I'll start asking the questions from our chat and comments. And we have currently 12 questions. So we got a lot of conversation here tonight. Thank you for being here. Who's going to address the police department?
So, Madam Chair, I'll join real quick and start.
Okay.
Hopefully you can hear me okay. The noise situation in Memphis, the speeding in Memphis, the crazy driving in Memphis is very important to us because it reduces the quality of life that we enjoy every day. I have had citizens call me personally and just say, hey, it's the point where we don't even like coming outside anymore. And that's a very crisis situation when police officers and police department hear that from our citizens that deserve the right to walk out their front door and enjoy the evening and enjoy the view and enjoy walking around the block with their children, and have to be intercepted by crazy drivers and loud cars and gunshots. And we know that our interstate system has unfortunately had over 70 reports of shootings, and we are trying to saturate our interstate system with some police officers to hopefully circumvent that. But one thing that we're doing is, and I'll let Chief Wright speak, and Chief Wright has done a great job in kind of taking over this project. And you're absolutely right, Madam Chair. It's not downtown; it's all over Memphis.
It's all over.
And it's not just Memphis; it's police departments all over the country are experiencing this behavior. One thing that will never be our friend in this type of situation is social media, because they can draft a plan within seconds and put a location in seconds, and everybody floods that way. And before we can even get information from callers, they're already on the scene doing their deeds and tearing up streets and tearing up private parking lots and disrupting neighborhoods. And by the time we get on the scene, sometimes they will have already fled that location and go to another location. One thing that hampers the police department is our consent decree that we're under. It's hard for us to really get into that social media type search to find out where they're going to be at certain times and certain dates and certain locations, because we're kind of held to a standard that we have to jump through a lot of hoops before we can even interact some type of investigative work to hopefully proactively prevent that. The individuals that we're talking about have no fear of police. I personally have encountered 2 motorcycles that were very high end, very high speed on our Beale Street area that Jennifer was speaking of, the downtown area in our district down there. They were driving crazy, driving wild. There were citizens trying to enjoy the night, and I pulled them over with another officer, and they just looked at me and didn't hesitate and floorboarded their motorcycles in and out of traffic, and within seconds they were out of sight. And that's difficult for a police officer because they have no respect for life, property, law, rules, regulations. And fleeing from a police in some of these high-end cars, they can go from 0 to 100 within a matter of seconds and put everyone in danger. So it does create a challenge for police to really enforce this in the way we would like to. But Chief Wright's done a great job in kind of looking at the ordinances, looking at the laws, looking at the state laws and what can apply best. And we've actually, through city council, through some of our state legislatures, have entertained conversation to strengthen the laws. Because if I've got a $75,000 souped up car and you do finally pull me over and write me a ticket and it costs me $50 out of my pocket, that's not going to deter my activity, I can promise you. But with that, with your respect, Madam Chair, I'd like to turn it over and let Chief Wright talk for just a bit on that.
Madam Chairman, you're muted.
Sorry. While you were getting ready to make some comments about what the police department can do, let me just ask a question right quick. When the cars rev up and make all that noise, zoom, 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 you just hear those motors going. When we had inspections, could we detect that if they souped up their vehicles and stop it there?
The inspection helped, but you have to understand when they go through that inspection bay, they're idling. What they have is a device that they put on their mufflers that they can open it up to create more noise and shut it down to loosen that noise. So they can kind of manipulate how loud they want to be, if that makes sense. So if we did have our inspection stations and they go through and they cut that system down, it would be difficult to catch it, because all our inspection stations were doing was really checking the emissions and some other things.
Okay. And I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I wanted to know that. If that's something we need to do, then the council can get on top of that right away. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Chief Wright.
Thank you. Thank you, Dee Dee. We've touched on quite a few things, and I've looked at some of the questions. There are at least 4 laws that govern the muffler violations in the city, and we're looking at, and we use those 4 laws. There's right now they're selling these aftermarket tailpipes that can come, that you can place on your car. The exhaust systems, they're called cutoff systems, and a lot of those cutoff systems are remote controlled, and you can actually use them. You can cut it on, and it'll make your car sound like almost a tractor trailer. And you cut it off, and it'll make it go back to a normal sound. We purchased several sound devices through the police department, and we're using some of these sound devices out there. We did some training with our officers, with a handful of our officers, to try to put them out on the streets to target or focus on these loud mufflers, these individuals that have these specialized custom mufflers. Some of these individuals are even just cutting off their muffler. They're just cutting the muffler off their cars, and they're going straight exhaust and causing that loud rumbling noise. And there are ordinances that we can address that problem with. If you have a neighbor that cranks up every morning and he parks out on the roadway there, and it's that rumbling noise, then you can call. You can call that in and talk with your precinct. First, I advise you to start communicating either with dispatcher, our normal non-emergency number, which is the 545-2677 number. That's the 545 COPS number. If you're having this disturbance in your community, call. If you can target the area, and we'll come out and we'll try to deal with the issue at that time. Now, if you're having an issue where you're not able to pinpoint where they are, but you're seeing all these tire marks in the middle of your road, then you can actually try to contact your precinct commanders, call it in to the desk officer at your local precinct. And it's really important that you get to know your precinct commanders and they get to know where these problems are occurring, where these people are grouping at, where the drag racing may be taking place, because they can have directed patrols put in that area where this is taking place. We can put our details out in that area. We have a lot of details that we're putting out. We're paying overtime. We're putting together special details. Just about every weekend, we have a team of guys out focusing on the drag racers, the speeders, and these loud mufflers. Just these last 3 weekends, I've been trying to direct some teams myself to actually be able to work with getting the right guys out on the street, police officers on the street, to actually be able to deal with some of these rolling mufflers. I feel like if we can get some violations under our belt, start addressing some of these violations, and letting these individuals know that, hey, this is not acceptable. Your exhaust system is illegal. I think that this may change the mindset. We do deal with the challenge of manpower because we are trying to still fight the violent crime issue, and that do cut back on some of our staffing, sometimes on how we put them out, how we put our officers out. But we are out there, and we are addressing those issues. There have been issues too, and I don't want to overstep my boundaries. We have been working with some of our local council people. Councilman Canale, he's reached out. Of course, you have reached out also, Councilwoman Robinson and Swearingen. She's reached out as well, and we're trying to look at changing some of these ordinances where we can increase some of the fines, making mandatory court appearances. We're even looking at even impounding vehicles or seizing vehicles. Now, under the drag racing law, we already have the right to seize that vehicle. That Tennessee law allows us to seize the vehicle already under drag racing. So under the Tennessee law, state law, we can seize the vehicles for drag racing. All we need is an officer to observe the offense, and we can actually seize that vehicle if it's observed drag racing on the streets of Memphis. There are some, like I say, there are some challenges to some of the laws, to some of the muffler laws that we're dealing with, but we're teaching our officers. It's a slow process, but we think that we will eventually get ahead of it. There are several cars out there right now, and I think it was, if you go back to the spring, talking to Steve was there with us all the way through it. We saw the change when COVID hit. We saw some of the streets clear out, and some of the bad guys started coming out with these cars because they saw these streets being clear, and they started doing whatever they felt they wanted to. And social media was the driving factor of these groups getting together. The kids or young people didn't want to be in the house, so they would create these groups and go out into whatever neighborhood they could find, whatever parking lot they could find that was clear. It wasn't hard to find a clear parking lot to do it in, and they would go out and cause chaos. We started, the Memphis Police Department started putting teams. We started hiring groups of people, officers, to come in, and we had most of our task forces. Every precinct has a task force, and we had these task forces come in. We've trained them up, and we had them go out, and we've made numerous arrests, physical arrests. We recovered guns from these individuals. We recovered drugs. We've taken cars off the street. So we've done a lot since the beginning of this, back starting in, I would say, April, when we started really getting out there. And I would say we made well over 300 some odd arrests. We've written well over 500 tickets since we've been doing it since July, I know. And we recovered, like say, 60 firearms on some of my stats that we had. So, That's a large number of enforcement shown out there by these officers. And if you're, like I say, if you're a citizen out there that's having this problem in your community, contact your local precinct. Try to get involved in your neighborhood watch meetings and get this information in the hands of those colonels and commanders, and make sure they know that you're having the problem in the main thoroughfares that you're having the problem on, and you can have some enforcement directed toward that area.
I'm so sorry. I keep turning my mic off. Thank you. We have a video that we want to show you right now about drag racing. And then we have several questions because the audience really wants to know, what are the ordinances that we have in place? What are those things that we need to do to shore those ordinances up? And I think that's number one. Then Jennifer, after the video, will you tell us what people are telling you about what's going on downtown, Riverside Drive, and Steve, you can share some of those things too. But let's watch this video. Let's play it now. Thank you. Looks like Memphis best, fast and furious. So, what are the laws around driving that fast on Riverside Drive?
So on that ordeal, I think we did actually make an arrest. When we get video on evidence like that, we can actually do some follow up. We have investigative bureaus that if you submit video to us like that, we can follow up, do the investigation, and hopefully make an arrest. We were able to make an arrest out of that on one of the individuals because we were able to get tags. Yeah, they were most definitely drag racing. They were driving recklessly. We have charges on the books for that, reckless driving. We have drag racing, speeding. Of course, that's part of the reckless driving that they were doing right there. That's more than dangerous. That you're putting people's life in danger. If you can provide video evidence to your precincts, your local commanders, and letting us know that, we can follow up on things like that. One of the problems we had been having with some of the video is that a lot of these individuals we found were having these temporary tags on their vehicles. They will actually take their real tags off their cars and put on fraudulent temporary tags. And when we try to actually pull over a lot of these individuals, we do have a problem with them evading the officers. They will elude officers, take off from their officers, and they will be able to escape. And that causes the problem because we can't pursue a misdemeanor offense, and it is a misdemeanor offense. Drag racing is a Class B misdemeanor. And like I say, one thing we could do with drag racing, I think, on trying to improve that state law, if you can get with your lawmakers upstate, is to enhance it to an A misdemeanor and maybe look at seizure of the vehicle. Of course, it's already being seized under the B, but moving it up to an A class misdemeanor could be something that they work at to increase the fine that goes along with the seizure of the vehicle. And of course, here in the city, a person that's driving like that, we would use a state charge because we're arresting them on a state charge. A city charge wouldn't even come into play with individuals driving like that. If we catch that guy, he's going to jail on a state charge.
Well, it looks like they had an audience too. We don't have anything about people congregating and watching.
Now, there are a lot of cities, we don't have laws in place here locally, but there have been other cities, and this is not something, this is a YouTube thing. This is what the young people do. They'll get out and they'll showcase their cars like this, and they'll post them on YouTube because they have tons of followers. If you look at the followers on YouTube, there's probably 1 million people that's viewed these videos. So there are some cities that put in place ordinances that deal with onlookers, those that are videoing these events. Those are some good laws to consider. Most definitely through the state and through local ordinances, we could look at that. I think we should push that. But I think you got to be careful on the onlookers, because some onlookers could be innocent bystanders just seeing the event. But those individuals that's right there, part of the crime, aiding and abetting the crime, these most definitely could be laws to consider. And we have received some recommendations or some suggestions through the community already on that.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer, what are they telling you?
So one of the biggest things we're hearing is that this is really disrupting business, and we have restaurants that are losing customers. We have hotels that are having to refund customers, and then they won't get those customers back. And that is a real problem. And we have so much interest in downtown right now from residents, thousands of apartments. We're becoming a city of choice for a lot of young people. And we don't want this problem to reverse that and negate it. The other thing I'll say is that we're really working hard to be a walkable city, that, we are a pretty small downtown that you can get to a lot of it on foot. And the River Parks Partnership has worked hard to improve the parks and create a great place for people to get out and gather. But this, as you can see from that video, is this extreme deterrent. And we do not want someone to have to get killed before action is taken. So I know the police have been doing everything they can, but we need citizens to realize the potential impact of this and keep our city a city of choice, and, let us continue to enjoy all of the outdoor assets that we have in downtown Memphis without this scaring people away.
Okay. So, Steve, what kind of complaints have you been getting?
Well, we've been getting actually just the same list that we've already heard. People driving at all hours, going down the street, revving their engines, drag racing. And one of the most important things that we can do is to work with citizens. Day by day, we've got really two big issues that we deal with every day we come to work. Number one is to match a sense of urgency to get these problems taken care of and to get some sort of resolvement to them. And the other thing is to not do things for the citizens, but with them. And that has been successful. Deputy Chief Wright alluded to some results that we've had. One instance, Chief, you'll recall, the folks from the Berkeley area got on our weekly phone calls, and that led to a partnership not only with the Berkeley Association, but also with the AutoZone folks. And now we don't have that at least one place out on Summer Avenue where all that drag racing was going on in the parking lot. The police department teamed up with AutoZone, got a quick resolvement to that. The citizens were right in the middle of that, so making those suggestions on the front end. And so we have had some results. Most important thing people can do has already been mentioned. Call 545-COPS 2677 immediately when you see it going on. Then get a partnership established with your neighborhood group or neighborhood watch group. If you don't have one, we can help you put that together. And then citizens are urged just to let us know down at the mayor's office. I'm going to give you my email address. It's steve.schuler, SHULAR, steve.schuler, SHULAR at memphistn.gov. The phone number here at the office is 636-6740. That rings my desk right here. And I have that phone forwarded after hours to my cell phone, so we can certainly get that information. And then we will take these locations that we're getting from the neighborhood leaders, as we've been doing all summer long, and getting that to Deputy Chief Wright, Deputy Director Ryle, and they are getting together action plans for those suggestions. So let us know, number one, when there's a sense of urgency, go ahead and call the police department about anything that's going on that needs to be responded to right then. Follow up with that through your neighborhood association and the various coordinators at the precinct. We have neighborhood watch coordinators that are at every precinct that can help you get organized. And then thirdly, if you'll just simply let us know, we can make sure that that specific location can be put on a watch list for the Memphis Police Department. And also, if you would want to be part of that Zoom call meeting that we've had, if you'll simply through the email, get me your email address, we'll get that over to our partners that have been working with us, with many of the downtown residents, condo owners, business owners, and we'll make sure you're part of that meeting each week.
So I have a constituent that wants to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, how does the Memphis Police Department rank enforcement of loud, chaotic driving in Memphis?
So, Madam Chair, for me, it's a 10. And I do believe that all crime interweaves into all crime. So if you have quality of life issues in a home or a neighborhood that you've invested in, and you're taken over by just erratic driving and nuisance ordinances and everything, that dovetails into other crimes. And if you overlook one, you hurt the process and the beginnings of other crime. So on a scale of 1 to 10, 10. Jennifer said it best. We want to invest in our city. And if individuals and citizens invest in our city and they invest in their homes and neighborhoods, they want to be able to enjoy them. So it's very important to us, not just as citizens, but as police officers. And we've got a great investigative team. That video is unbelievable that you showed that video, because like Chief Wright said, we were able to take that segment, investigate it. We determined who each driver was, and we made an arrest in that particular investigation. So we're not asking our citizens to be police officers. We don't want them in harm's way, but information that you have, tag numbers, any other information, that video was very helpful. We can help build a stop to this one brick at a time, and it's working with our citizen input.
Thank you. Councilman Covett, will you get some of the comments and start getting those citizens' questions, because we want to get most of those answered for them tonight. And if we don't get to your question, we will make sure if you would put your email address in our chat function or in the comment section, we'll make sure that you get the answers to your questions. Go ahead, Frank.
Thank you. First things first, one of the recent questions we have: as president of the Downtown Neighborhood Association, our membership and I are very concerned. Can we invest in a focus areas as we did on I-240?
So I'll go ahead and answer that question. We do look at focus areas, but when we're dealing with this, there are some areas that's affected more with this than others. We do have grouping in some of the precincts that we've identified, and most of our precinct commanders are familiar with these areas that these individuals like to gather in. And we're not in this fight by ourselves as Memphis police officers. We have incorporated the Tennessee Highway Patrol, who was here recently and assisted us with focusing in three various precincts throughout the city. We also did the click it and ticket, which was part of slowing down some of the speeders during the holiday. We just did that. The sheriff department has been great with helping us. They came in and worked with us on some of the THSOs, which are state grants that we have. They came in, assisted us throughout the summer, and we're still looking at working with them more. They're having the same problem outside in their county area. I think when we push them out of the city, they go into the county, and when the county push them out of the county, they'll come into the city. We find that a lot of these individuals, when they communicate, they have a lot of different locations that they scatter out to. And we're all familiar with a lot of the big locations. So they are part of our focus, and it is a focus. It's always a focus, and it's something that's being talked about on every command staff meeting that we have.
Thank you very much. The question I've got, let's go to legislation, because make sure our listeners and our audience understands the difference between state and what we can do locally. what sort of suggestions do you have potentially that we could address on the city council? Because, for example, I'd address the muffler question. We can check the tint on windows. Do we have a way to test the mufflers to see if this person might be, or this potential problem might be one of the problems?
So I'll address that. We do have a ordinance already set. There is a table guide that you all have under 11-56-2 ordinance, motorized vehicles. It deals with mufflers, and it gives a table of decimals that each car or motorcycle or truck should be gauged at. With that table, we use that table as police officers to use our sound meter. And that's how we go about charging on the sound meter if you have a loud muffler in your car. Now, there are other charges, such as defective muffler. That's a charge in itself because you have a defective muffler on your car that makes a loud noise. They also have a charge for a muffler cutoff system, and that mirrors the state charge. And that's in itself is a charge in itself. Those two charges, we don't have to use a sound meter on. A defective muffler and a cutoff charge, we don't have to use a sound meter on. There are some difficulties in the sound meter charge that kind of makes it a little difficult sometimes to deal with. But our officers are using the charge, and it's but most of the time you would find that, and I tell people, if I pull you over for a muffler violation and I find a gun, drugs, and you got warrants on you and bad license, then I won't be able to charge you with the city ordinance because I'm charging you with state charges. So the city ordinance itself is probable cause, and it's written into the arrest ticket on why I stopped you. But the superseding charges would be the state charges, because you don't want to mix state charges and a city ordinance when you're arresting an individual like that. But that city ordinance led us to that arrest. Now, with drugs being in the car, felony amount of drugs being in the car, we'll seize the car anyway. We're going to seize the car on that level. So those are things. And so that's why most of the time these individuals that's out there committing these acts, they're already in violation of the law of the thing. So that's sometimes what we run into with enforcement. But we would like to see increase in fines. We would like to see mandatory court. We would like to see vehicles possibly being able to be seized after a certain number of offenses that they've been found in violation of. These are the things that we would like to see and put it into the law. And we would like to see the ordinance that governs the table, the actual decimal table, being a little easy. And that's something we could get into in detail in another conversation.
Thank you. Also, officers, we've gotten reports that there are cars using blue lights, blue turn signals, or blue headlamps, or something of that. Is that illegal in the city of Memphis, for anybody other than a police officer to have blue lights on their vehicle?
Yeah, I've seen those, and we've had cars stopped on that. There are lighting laws that the state and the city ordinance cover, but we would deal with it on a state level. If there's violations under that, or if the city ordinance comes into play, we'll issue a ticket on it. But yeah, that blue lights are against the law. You can't be pretending or have lights on your car in a blue light factory that makes you look like a police officer.
Okay. Is there any law, I guess, in the state, or is it something that we can potentially do locally? We have a question. Can we, for example, require car shows to post signs, or can we have signs posted of, look, no drag racing, or your muffler can only be so loud, things of that nature? Lady, that might be for us legislatively.
Yeah, so are you asking about private property, or are you asking about that?
Well, like my son really likes to go to car shows, and that would be a great way to get the word out. Look, no drag racing. We're looking for you. Watch your muffler decibels, for lack of better words. Do you guys do anything like that? Is that something potentially we can help you with?
Well, had a discussion today with the deputy director about Maybe just putting something out in media. Maybe if the council would like to do some type of a public announcement about the muffler itself, that would be great. Just talking about the violation, being a violation here in the city, just putting the media attention out there, because it's most definitely something that we're going to go into the new year in the mindset once we start getting it. I told Steve a few days ago, I say, Steve, we've ramped up this already toward the end of the year, and coming into the new year, we want to make sure that we put it out in the media, but we most definitely want to start pushing it out to let these individuals know that your muffler could be in violation of the law. Now, as of having shows and things like that, posting signage, you can't go wrong posting signage, but it's under law already that you can't drag race, you shouldn't be speeding, and you shouldn't be disturbing the peace. That's that's law already. But if you want to put reminders out like that, if you're having a car show, that's great. And that's most definitely a good idea for the individual that's running that car show.
That may be something we address legislatively. We've got another really good question about local garages. Is this something also we might need some legislation on? Officers, are there any ordinances that prevent, ban, or stop local garages from souping these cars up? I guess it'd be the mufflers and the whatever they're doing to make them, for lack of a better word, street illegal to drag race.
I'm not familiar with any laws governing that shop from doing it, or that business owner from doing it. But the individual that's occupying the vehicle that's making the noise is in violation of the law. So if once he comes off that lot, he's in violation. Now, under window tint, you shouldn't get 20% window tint on your window, but individuals are doing it. Most reputable tint installers won't put limo tint on your windows. They won't install illegal tint on your windows, and they'll tell you that. But when you come off that lot, you as the owner of that vehicle is responsible for what you have placed on it, aftermarket, illegal parts, or whatever it is, you're responsible for it. So, and there could be some good legislation in there about that to the owners of that does the work on it, people that do the work on it, though.
Well, it's like all things, if somebody is going to sell you something that is basically, he's going to drag race with it, maybe we ought to consider an ordinance. Another good question, in y'all's professional opinion, would it help to lower the speed limit in the downtown core? Maybe that's a question for the officers, but also the Downtown Memphis Commission.
We would very much like to see that.
Well, I know we've had some meetings, Steve. I think you were in on some of the meetings where they talked about more signage, redesign of the streets, trying to improve that, posting more signage. We've seen the speed signs down there, even talked about traffic cameras, I think, at one point, just to help deter some of the behavior of the individuals down there. I would like to see more signage downtown. I would like to see, I wish I could put more police officers in the downtown area, hire in more officers to put down there as well. But more signage couldn't hurt. Reducing the speed, I'm not going to say that'll hurt at all, because you're bringing it down. People will be able to move around a little better. But if you do it, we need to announce it. Make sure we post signage for it.
Well, I'd definitely like to do that, because, you see these people watching these drag races, and I'm sure these drivers are pretty good at it, but it just takes one person, an amateur or whatever, I guess a great driver, to lose control, not only bust up their car, but you saw civilian cars trying to drive. You saw people standing there. Somebody's going to get hurt. So if we could start with that and potentially get with engineering to redesign some of these streets, rethink them, Patrice, I guess that's a question for the legislative body, but I think we ought to at least investigate how we could potentially help on that.
Well, my personal opinion, short answer is yes. Anything would be an assistance to police officers to enforce better laws. Lowering speed limits in certain areas of our city would be helpful. It gives us more opportunity and assistance to enforce a better proactive plan. One thing that we have to always remind ourselves, I can pull up beside a car and he can rev that engine and I can say, man, that's way too loud. But proving that in court without the tools that Chief Wright talked about is difficult. That's why we have to have those decibel meters so that we can actually register something that courts will buy into. It makes it more, I think the citizens don't understand. Sometimes this is a difficult process when you get into the court system. So I think the courts need to be a part of this discussion along with the legislatures. And thank you, Councilman and Chairwoman Robinson, for always being willing to look at our city ordinances to see which ways we can amplify and up some of the things that we're looking at in our issues in the city to kind of help our citizens move along in a better way.
Well, I appreciate it. One last question, I guess, before Chair Lady gets it back. Do all of our police cars, our vehicles, have these decibel meter readers, or is this something that's a specialized tool? And do you need more of them?
No, we have enough to supply the stations. We have all stations supplied. Well, a large number of our stations supplied with these meters. It's something that you most definitely if an officer pulls over a car, he can always get that meter over to him if he needs it. So every car won't need a meter in it. That would be unnecessary, but we do have enough meters, and if we need more, we'll most definitely be able to purchase more. They're not just overly priced. So if we need more, we can get them to us.
Okay, thank you. As I say in council all the time, Madam Chairman, you have the ball.
Yes, and I want to say that we do have a ordinance item that's on the agenda now. If you don't see anywhere where you're supposed to drive a certain speed limit, if it's 30 or 35, you don't see anything, we reduced it to 25. So if there is no sign, it is 25. So we're looking at that to help citizens. But the citizens are also concerned about their children. I have had several calls about Holmes Road in Whitehaven between Elvis Presley and Mill Branch. They are drag racing. And just a couple of weeks ago, we had a child hit. We need to ensure that our police officers are working in those areas where we need them the most. So do we have a plan at the police department so that we can create a program, or do we already have a program where we focus on smaller issues to this amount of time, but here are the issues that are really impacting our community so that our police officers can work on those that are more important? And I know citizens want to know if we can get rid of one crime, then we can move on to the next one. But life doesn't happen like that. Our young people in our community, they don't stop these bad behaviors. We can do all we can, but they somehow come back up. But what kind of plan do we have so that we can focus our efforts in areas and reduce them and then move on to the next area, and the community get involved and work with you to make that happen? And I know we can't get rid of it totally, but what we can do is help reduce it and work with the police department rather than providing all this friction. We need to be working together as a community, because this means so much to us, not just to senior citizens like me, but to our youth that are growing up and coming up behind us. We want them to live in a safe community, and we want the police department to know that we support you as well. So what can we do to create new programming for our officers so that we can make sure that our traffic is taken care of, things that are going on that are nonviolent, and then have a group of people, to help us fight the violent crime in our community? We've got to somehow capsulize that and make sure that as we deal with all these issues, that we know we can't drop it, but we can move on to the next one. We can reduce it enough so that we can move to another issue in the community. Was I clear?
Crystal.
Okay.
And we are working on that. Chief Wright did mention that we are working on traffic all over our city with efforts and even special groups that we put together to get down to the Holmes Road type places so that we can clear up some of that and do one step at a time, because you're absolutely right, Madam Chair, that we have to, I know violent crime is a big topic, but we can't forget these issues, because children are dying with some of this stuff that we're dealing with this crazy driving. COVID has not been our friend. It has hampered the court system. It's hampered the police department. It's hampered our citizens. And I think it's encouraged in just one puzzle piece, this type of behavior, because what has happened through our city is people are staying home more. The streets aren't as crowded with traffic at certain times of day and night. And they're kind of open lanes for misbehaviors that want to come out and do this type of behavior. We want to attack it strongly, but we will be out there enforcing this kind of stuff. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, we're about to run out of time, and I want to say thank you to all of my panelists. We have additional questions here. We'll make sure that we get that information to you. Please put in the comment section your email addresses so that we can address each and every one of your questions. Know that this coming spring, we're going to start working on cleaning up Memphis. That is the next topic of interest in our community. And if you have a special interest in that, please call Clean Memphis and Memphis City Beautiful and help us coordinate neighborhood cleanups this spring. And let's all get our hands dirty and get our city clean. Thank you so much. We're going to reduce the noise in Memphis. We're going to fight this head on, and we're going to do this together. And thank you for your attention, your time, and your care, so that Memphis can continue to move forth with great momentum. Thank you. Good night.